It's finally happening. The clock is ticking down to the gorilla concert that has everyone on the edge of their seats. Inside the suite, where the performers are huddled up, you can practically feel the nervous energy radiating off Lee Se-hyun. He's the band leader, known for his angelic voice, striking good looks, and that signature strawberry blonde hair. But right now, he's just pacing around the room, worry lines etched across his face. But worry not, there's a mood lifter in the house. Kim Hyun-ha, our resident redhead and the life of the party, is doing his best to lighten the atmosphere. He's dancing around, rapping, and basically being his hilarious self, reminding Se-hyun of the love their fans have for him. And then, amidst all this, Baek Min-woo, the genius behind Near who's in charge of dance and lyrics, is distracted by a mishap. He's staring at his spilled chocolates, thanks to a distracted Hyun-ha tripping over his own feet. But a distressed cry from Se-hyun quickly pulls him back into the reality of their situation. And would you believe it? Amidst all this chaos, Kang Jin-hui, the youngest and the coolest member of the band, is sleeping like a baby. But his peaceful slumber is disrupted when the manager of Near barges in, scolding them for their disarray. This doesn't sit well with Min-woo, who fires back, but the manager isn't fazed one bit. Just as tensions are running high, a staff member signals Near to get ready for the final check. Jun-hui, still groggy from his dream, is woken up by the dark-haired oppa. There's a bit of reassurance, a bit of hair fixing, and then it's all hands on deck. The band gets ready, nerves jangling but spirits high, thanks to the ever-cheerful Hyun-ha. Together, they perform their cheer routine, hands in the middle, encouraging words filling the room fighting. In the next scene, Near, our beloved band, takes over the stage, bathed in lights of every color imaginable. The crowd is buzzing, fans are losing their minds, and the boys? They're just doing their thing, owning the spotlight like the rock stars they are. On the other end of the spectrum, there's this girl, glued to her screen, living the concert through a live stream. Her eyes, as big and brown as puppy dog eyes, are wide with admiration. You can tell she's a hardcore Near fan you'd have to be, to deck out your entire space with their photos and albums. She's even got mugs, yes, mugs, custom made for each of the boys. Now that's dedication. And here's the kicker, she's totally torn. How's a girl to choose between her favorite oppas? It's a tough call, but one thing's for sure, tonight, she's just here for the music. Next scene, we see our protagonist, Seoi Ray, a hard-nosed law student, strolling in after a long day of lectures and wondering who falls for this Diakimot stuff anyway. To her greatest surprise, she finds Near, the popular boy band, chowing down in her living room. As she takes in the surreal scene, she reminds herself to keep her cool. With a huff, she voices her discontent. All eyes swivel towards her, smiles spreading across their faces as they introduce themselves. Rewinding a couple of weeks, E-Ray remembers walking in on her mom snoozing on the couch, the TV blaring. Despite her repeated warnings about wasting electricity, her mom never listens. Shaking her head, she wakes her up, diving into a conversation about their budget and reminding her about their impending bills. Her mom bursts into tears, admitting she spent their money on a baseball cap. As she inspects the cap, she realizes it's from Near. Here's some backstory. E-Ray's mom has a history of falling for the wrong guys, leaving her heartbroken and conned more times than she'd like to admit. To avoid another scam, she's turned to idolizing boy bands. E-Ray declares her disdain for handsome men, vowing to stay far away from them. She's learned from her mom's mistakes and is determined to be independent and build a stable life for herself. Suddenly, a knock at the door interrupts their conversation. E-Ray swings it open, her mom trailing behind her. A well-dressed young man stands there, quickly confirming he's at the right address. Her mom squeals with delight, trying to explain to a bewildered E-Ray that he's a representative from Eyes Entertainment, Near's agency. The young man nods, announcing his reason for showing up uninvited. They're working with Near. E-Ray's world is spinning. She shoots a glance at her mom, hoping for some clarity. At the center of the chaos stands Han Dong-min, a charming man in his 50s who runs TVB channel. He's just observing the circus unfold with an amused smile. Just when Ray thinks it can't get any crazier, Mr. Fancy Suits, as she's taken to calling him, drops another bomb. The show's called The Idols of My House, and Near will be living with a fan's family for 2 months. Her mouth drops open. She's the fan? Her impatience flares up, and she lets Mr. Fancy Suits have it. But he seems to enjoy their little spat. With a defiant stomp of her foot, she refuses outright. She tries to reason with her mom, but gets caught off guard by the hefty paycheck they're offering. She can't help but think about all the bills it would cover. Still, she's not going down without a fight. She tries to negotiate with Mr. Fancy Suits, but he only manages to get under her skin even more. Meanwhile, Erasure can't hide her disdain for this invasion of her privacy. In the midst of her rant, Baek Min who interrupts her with a comment that lights a fire under her, much to Han Dong-min's delight. After what feels like an eternity, Erasure gives in, swayed by the extra cash. Her pride takes a hit, but the money is too tempting. She reluctantly shakes hands with the team and starts going through the contract. Her mom is over the moon, eager to join her in reading the fine print. Near, oblivious to the drama, continues to enjoy their meal. Baek Min who can't resist another jab at Ray, asking a question that leaves her speechless. She fires back, pride fueling her words, but their bickering is cut short by her mom offering up another plate of food. With a sigh, Ray turns back to the contract, pleading for more time to review it. Mr. Fancy Suits, ever the smooth talker, reassures her about the benefits and promises that Near will be on their best behavior. He even asks her to take care of them, which just adds to her stress. Exhausted, she closes her eyes, her mind racing with thoughts of how to deal with her new family. She plans to keep a low profile during filming and make some quick cash. And as for Near? She decides they'll be her mom's problem. After all, who better to handle a bunch of idols than their biggest fan? Fast forward a few hours, and we catch up with Ray, now in her comfiest PJs, poring over the contract. She's on the brink of signing when a racket from the living room startles her. With a sigh, she heads out to find Kim Hyun-ha mid-workout, his shirt discarded somewhere. He flashes her an apologetic grin, explaining the noise. Her annoyance flares up, and she orders him to cover up. Just as she's about to retreat back to her room, Lee Se-hyun blocks her path, camera in hand as he tries to snap some shots of her adorable pup. It's all too much, she can feel her sanity slipping away. And just when she thinks she might finally get some peace, Baek Min who and Kang Junhui make themselves at home on her couch. Junhui, ever the diva, is sporting a face mask to fend off premature aging. She's taken aback, but what really gets her blood boiling is seeing Min who wearing her shirt. She accuses him of invading her privacy, but he shrugs it off, claiming he found it on the floor. She tells him to keep it, it's ruined now anyway. This was not what she signed up for, and the frustration is getting to her. The scene shifts to Mr. Fancy Suits inspecting the second floor of her apartment, which had become a storage space over time. He suggests transforming it into bedrooms for Near, which makes Ray roll her eyes. How is she supposed to study with all the noise? But the guys seem thrilled at the idea of their own rooms. Her mom then makes a grand entrance, looking like she stepped straight out of a K-drama, complete with full makeup. Ray tries to hide her amusement behind a mask of irritation. Her mom is already over the top, and this is just adding fuel to the fire, but her mom's too starstruck to care. She's living her dream, even if Ray isn't sharing in her excitement. When Ray catches her mom texting Yappy about the whole Near situation, she confiscates her phone. She'd explicitly asked her not to share anything with anyone, but it seems her mom can't resist. Ray's had enough of her mom's childish antics. Feeling overwhelmed, Ray locks eyes with Min who across the room. He holds her gaze for a moment before looking away. With a final eye roll, she retreats to her room, leaving the boys to their own devices. Meanwhile, Han Dong-min watches the drama unfold with fake tears streaming down his face. He can sense the tension building between Ray and Near. But the guys seem oblivious, and her mom's obsession with them is only making things worse. Ray then decides they need some ground rules to keep the peace, and Han Dong-min nods along, pretending to agree. But then he throws a curveball, a welcome party. And guess what? He pairs up Ray with her least favorite housemate, Baek Min-hoo, for a grocery run. She tries to argue, but Min-hoo brushes off her protests, hiding his true identity as they head to the mall. As they leave, the producer pulls Min-hoo aside, whispering something about not disappointing a certain Mr. Baek. Min-hoo's reaction is subtle, but Ray catches the brief flinch. Once they hit the streets, it's a whole different ballgame. Cameras everywhere, and Min-hoo strutting around like he owns the place. Ray's annoyance grows with each passing second, but when a cameraman asks them to act natural, she just rolls her eyes. Suddenly, her cute dog Tunji darts off, leading them straight to the mall. Ray tries to play nice, asking Min-hoo about his favorite fruits. But he gives her the cold shoulder, reminding her why she can't stand him in the first place. Min-hoo seems unfazed as he saunters off in another direction. As Ray watches him, she can't help but feel a pang of jealousy at the attention he attracts. An elderly woman even offers him some freshly baked cookies, which he accepts with a charming smile. As he lowers his mask to take a bite, the woman gasps, recognizing him instantly. Soon enough, a crowd forms around him, leaving Ray fuming on the sidelines. Fed up, she shoves her way through the crowd, locking eyes with Min-hoo. With a warning shout, she charges at him with the shopping cart. Before he can react, she's careening him through the mall, tossing random groceries into the cart as she goes. In no time, they're back outside, panting and out of breath. Min-hoo's not too happy about the stunt, accusing her of endangering his life. But Ray isn't having any of it. She retorts that he brought it upon himself. Their argument escalates, leaving poor Tunji looking on in confusion. Finally, Ray's had enough and tries to leave, but Min-hoo grabs her arm, refusing to let the argument die. The journey back home is a quiet one. Once they reach the house, Min-hoo beelines for his room without a word. Ray, still peeved, finds a quiet corner in the living room to stew over their recent fight. As she thinks back on her actions, she can't help but feel a pang of regret. The rest of the housemates notice the tension between them and decide it's time to nip this feud in the bud. Strawberry Blondie, as Ray likes to call him, tries to chat with her about the spat with Min-hoo. She's taken aback by his sudden appearance and struggles to find the right words. He chuckles at her awkwardness, suggesting a more informal approach. As they talk, she spills the beans about her run-in with Min-hoo. He then mentions Mr. Baek, Min-hoo's older brother, with a 15-year age difference. He paints a picture of a young Min-hoo, orphaned and raised by his elder sibling. As he explains Min-hoo's deep respect for his brother's business, Ray can't help but feel a bit shocked. She remembers the hurtful things he said, but Strawberry Blondie urges her to be patient with him. Suddenly, Tunji makes an appearance, running straight towards Strawberry Blondie. It's unusual, Tunji's never been fond of men, but he seems to have taken a liking to Strawberry Blondie, who admits he's grown quite fond of the little pup too. Ray is surprised, maybe not all good-looking guys are complete jerks. She decides to apologize to Min-hoo, rehearsing her words in her head. But before she can knock, the door swings open, and she stumbles into him. He catches her just in time, leaving her blushing and speechless. Rewind a few minutes, and we find Min-hoo in his room, startled by a knock on the door. It's Kim Hyun-ha, wondering why he's MIA during the party prep and prodding him about his tiff with Ray. Min-hoo plays along, recounting his near-death experience at the mall. While Hyun-ha finds the whole story amusing, he points out that Min-hoo's issues with Ray seem to stem from her big payday from his brother's company. Hyun-ha reassures Min-hoo that he has nothing to worry about and praises Ray for handling the situation so well. He even suggests that the money she received isn't as significant as Min-hoo thinks. Min-hoo is taken aback by Hyun-ha's mature take on the matter. It's a rare sight. Hyun-ha admits he can be serious when it comes to matters of the heart, which reminds him of Min-hoo's own trouble with women. With a final push, Hyun-ha sends Min-hoo towards the door, urging him to apologize to Ray. And just as he opens the door, he bumps into Ray, who'd been standing right outside. Min-Hoo's hand instinctively reaches out to keep Ray from taking a nasty tumble. But just as quickly, he shoves her towards Hyun-Ha, who catches her in the nick of time. Min-Hoo snipes at Hyun-Ha about his clumsiness with the ladies, but it's too late. Ray is already seeing red. She wriggles out of Hyun-Ha's hold, and before they know it, she's letting them have it. After her tirade, there's a moment of stunned silence before Hyun-Ha bursts into laughter. He teases her about her fiery temper, making light of the situation, which only irks her more. He jokingly vows to make her fall head over heels for him, leaving everyone else in the room feeling awkward. Ray is left stewing, wondering why Min-Hoo had to be so rough with her. It's then that she realizes she completely forgot to apologize. Meanwhile, Min-Hoo seems intent on avoiding her at all costs. No eye contact, no conversation, nothing. This only pisses Ray off even more. Next thing we know, Ray is lounging on the couch when Hyun-Hoo invades her personal space, trying to show her something on his phone. She snaps at him to back off, blaming the heat, but he doesn't take the hint. When he leans in even closer, she loses it and punches him, sending him sprawling. Shaking her head, she storms off, leaving Hyun-Hoo to nurse his bruised ego with Kang Junhui. Fast forward a week, and the internet is buzzing with news about the unstoppable ride, a video of Ray and Min-Hoo's shopping cart adventure at the mall. Suddenly, she's the talk of the town, known as the cart driver. Now, every time she steps out, she can feel people's eyes on her. It's then that she realizes life was much better before the show started airing. Later, Ray comes home from work to find the Near brothers and her mom engrossed in a video game. She decides not to let it bother her and launches into a detailed account of her day. From the moment she left the house, she felt like she was under a microscope. At work, her colleagues were all over her, asking about the show and the Near brothers. They even started talking about the viral video, each one offering their 2 cents. Regardless, she continues with her story. One of her colleagues is practically drooling over the Near brothers, ogling at their pictures online. Back at the counter in her uniform, she berates herself for not taking the show seriously. Just as she's lost in thought, a customer approaches her with a curious expression. The customer hesitates before finally asking about Idol House. Ray confirms her suspicions, and the customer rushes back to her friends, excitedly sharing her discovery. This doesn't sit well with Ray, but she brushes it off and continues telling her story. She talks about being bombarded with questions and even being followed home by some eager fans. In the end, her boss suggested she take some time off to decompress. Shifting gears, Ray tries to steer the conversation towards her mom. She encourages her to share her own experiences from the day. But her mom just shakes her head, explaining that she hasn't had any run-ins with fans, thanks to her face always being hidden behind a sanitary guard. Then she sighs, lamenting her recent job loss. They're interrupted by a voice that startles Ray. She whirls around, ready to confront the newcomer. The man introduces himself as Mancheol Kim, their new manager. His interest is piqued when he hears about her current employment status. He starts bombarding her with questions about driving and, out of nowhere, suggests she could be the assistant manager for Near. This takes her by surprise, and she quickly shuts him down. She points out how managers are basically glorified chauffeurs who work all night, take heat from fans, and have no set schedules. It's a hard pass from her. Feeling drained from all the chatter, she decides it's time for a snack break. She brings out some donuts she got from her boss and offers them to the group. The guys light up at the sight of the treats, but their manager tells them to limit themselves to 1 each. She notices Min-Hoo's stiff demeanor and invites him to have a piece. He hesitates, but eventually gives in. As he makes his selection, Hyun-Ha leans in to whisper to her about Min-Hoo's sweet tooth. When he can't decide which flavor to pick, she suggests splitting them so he can try both. As she heads to the kitchen to grab some scissors, she can't help but admit that he's kind of cute, despite his annoying tendencies. On her way back, she bumps into Kang Junhui, who looks completely disinterested in the donuts. He admits he doesn't like sweets, so she offers him some seaweed snacks instead. He seems to like those and starts munching on them right away. As she takes in the scene, she feels a weird sense of contentment. It's like she's training 4 adorable puppies. Living in a crowded house isn't as bad as she thought, except for Hyunha's constant antics. The scene shifts to a man standing in a massive office, berating his assistant over low viewership numbers for his show. His temper flares up, and he hurls a water bottle at the assistant, who barely manages to dodge it. The man then directs his anger towards Mr. Beck, blaming him for not only poaching one of his trainees, but also stealing his spotlight. In a fit of rage, he orders his assistant to call a certain Mr. Park. It's a sunny Sunday morning, and the boys are busy with various chores. Min Woo is peeling potatoes, Se-hyun is cleaning, Kang Junhui is taking out the trash, and Hyun Woo is scrubbing the toilet. It's chore day with Near, suggested by Agusi Dongmin. He thinks it's a good idea since they're all living together like a family. He asks Ray how she's managing, and she rolls her eyes, pointing out they haven't been much help. Seeing this as an opportunity, Dongmin assigns each of them a chore. Min Woo impatiently hacks at the potatoes, Se-hyun is more interested in playing with Tunji, Kang Junhui is struggling with the trash, and Hyun Woo is having a blast cleaning the toilet. Ray watches them, already tired of Hyun Woo's antics. He's making more work for her and seems to be intentionally getting himself wet. Suddenly, her mom pops up out of nowhere, snapping photos of him. Later, he plans to post them on his social media, but he's taken aback by how Ray can stand in front of a total heartthrob like him without batting an eye. He comments on this, and her mom overhears. She chimes in, revealing her daughter's not-so-secret dislike for handsome guys. But she warns him not to mess with her girl. Her voice trails off before she finishes her sentence, leaving him a bit unnerved. Just then, Min Woo lets out a yelp. He's cut himself while peeling potatoes. Ray rushes over, causing him to flinch, but she's more concerned about his injury than his pride. She tries to take a closer look at the cut, but he pulls away. This irks her, but she doesn't back down. She grabs his hand and guides him to the sink. As she cleans the cut, she reassures him that she's not interested in him romantically, but he really needs to take care of his wound. He admits that he's been acting weird around her because he's not used to being around girls. He grew up with brothers, went to an all-boys school, and even in his career, he hasn't had much interaction with women. This revelation surprises her, as she'd never considered this side of him. Feeling bashful, Min Woo stammers, trying to explain himself. Seeing him flustered, Ray bursts into laughter, teasing him. She suggests they try hanging out more, since they live together after all. She even floats the idea of dating, which catches him off guard as he hasn't dated in a while. When she asks why, he suddenly bolts towards the door, claiming he saw someone peering into their house. They bid goodbye and leave the living room, but Ray's mom insists they take some food with them. Meanwhile, Ray is amazed at how packed their schedules are, filming commercials, appearing on TV and reality shows, and even planning their next album. She brushes her teeth, reflecting on how she'd initially thought they were slacking off when they weren't touring. Peeking out of her apartment, she's taken aback by the hustle and bustle of the production crew. She sighs, feeling a bit lonely and jobless amid all the action. Later in the day, Min Woo and Se-hyun are called in by Mr. Beck regarding an article that's making rounds on the internet. Surprisingly, he seems unfazed by the clickbait headline and the rumor spreading like wildfire. He even mentions the fans' positive reactions towards Min Woo Oppa in the comments section. Min Woo finally speaks up, his voice filled with concern. Se-hyun asks if he's worried about Ray. Min Woo admits that he's worried, especially since she lost her job because of them and keeps ending up in the spotlight for all the wrong reasons. Things get serious when Mr. Beck interrupts their banter, reminding Min Woo about the potential business fallout from a scandal. He sends his best to Ray and assures him that he'll handle everything, but just as Min Woo's about to walk out, Mr. Beck drops some brotherly advice that feels more like a warning, leaving Min Woo a tad confused. As they head over to join the rest of the group, Min Woo tries to get Se-hyun's take on Mr. Beck's cryptic words, but Se-hyun seems as clueless as him. Switching scenes, we find Hyun Woo and Kang Junhui wrapping up their last commercial shoot for the day. Kang Junhui complains about being sleepy, despite Hyun-woo's reminder that he'd hit the sack early the previous night. Kang Junhui shrugs it off, saying he woke up early and as long as he stays awake during shoots, it's all good. With that, he excuses himself for a restroom break, with a stern warning from Hyun-woo to hurry back. Just then, two guys strike up a conversation with Hyun-woo. They exchange pleasantries and congratulate each other on a job well done. One of them, a bit of a show-off, asks about the show Hyun-woo had mentioned earlier. This sparks a chat between them. The show-off, trying to be funny, wishes aloud that they could swap places. He even brings up living with a single girl like Irae, calling her cute. He asks Hyun-woo if he could set him up with her, but Hyun-woo shuts him down, claiming he's too high-profile for non-celebs. The show-off disagrees, arguing that regular folk have a certain charm that makes them easy to charm. This banter turns into a heated exchange when Hyun-woo loses his cool. He reminds the show-off that they're all like family in the house, which makes Irae his sister. He says he'd never introduce his sister to someone like him, and this really riles up the show-off. Things get awkward as they square off, drawing attention from others around them. As they get closer to each other, the show-off threatens Hyun-woo, who counters with his usual wit. He calls out the show-off for his disrespectful talk about women, especially in front of a fellow industry professional. This makes the show-off even angrier. Just as he's about to throw a punch, Kang Junhui returns from the restroom and smacks him on the head. Kang Junhui tells the show-off it's better than getting punched in the face, but the show-off yells at him for suddenly taking the logical route. Another guy, Kang-ik, tries to join in, but a blonde guy sternly warns him to stop or he'll be kicked out, leaving him to clean up the mess. Kang-ik reluctantly backs off, and as the group moves away, the blonde guy apologizes again and asks them to behave better next time. The next scene drops us into a car, stuck in traffic, with the guys deep in conversation. Junhui Appa playfully chides Hyun-ha for his earlier outburst, reminding him that he'll have to deal with Kang-ik regularly. Hyun-ha defends himself, arguing that he couldn't stand by when Erasure's name was dragged through the mud. He then throws a curveball question to the guys in the back seat. Min-woo stays quiet, mulling over the question, but Se-hyun whispers an answer, choosing Near because it's his only family and he'd never jeopardize their work. Hyun-woo, sensing the raw emotion in his voice, apologizes. The mood lightens as they tease each other, Junhui getting props for handling the situation well. Meanwhile, back at the apartment, we find Irae, in a full-blown rant, blaming Min-woo for her job application falling through. He looks baffled, unsure of what she's talking about. Hyun-woo pops up, asking where her mom is, and she fills him in on the reporter situation. Mr. Manchel tries to revisit his job offer, but Irae cuts him off. She questions why they would hire her instead of a professional, which prompts the strawberry blondie to spill the beans about the company's issues and their need for someone they can trust. Irae is left speechless, but Mr. Manchel breaks the silence, mentioning their need for staff and pulling out a contract. He shares the news of Min-woo's drama offer, which adds to the surprises of the day. Now, picture this, a top-tier school offering a stellar education, state-of-the-art facilities, and a powerful alumni network. Imagine securing a spot in a prestigious university, with your future all mapped out. Welcome to SY Private High School, a place that grooms the elite and noble classes, fostering collaboration and competition. Meet our hero, Hara, a bright but poor student who makes it to SY only to be tormented by her classmates, because of her humble background. But here's the twist, as she weeps on the floor, Jun Lee, president of the noble class, steps in. He offers his hand, vowing to save her from the bullies, but he wants something in return. Just as Mr. Manchel is engrossed in the script, Hyun-woo interrupts with a question. Mr. Manchel answers in detail, revealing the age group of the majority of the characters and the role offered to Min-woo. This catches Hyun-woo's interest, and he quickly flips through the script, curious about how significant the role might be. Mr. Manchel shares that Min-woo's character is the writer's favorite and elaborates on the writer's vision for the role. The exciting news calls for a celebration, and Kang Junhui's mind drifts to the promise of a hearty meal. Ray, thrilled, texts her mom to pick up some groceries. Meanwhile, the manager hands her a form to fill out about Near, leaving her pondering what to write. Amidst this buzz, Min, who seems unsure about his feelings, asking Mr. Manchel about President Beek's thoughts. Mr. Manchel assures him that the president is fine with the development, but Ray can't help but notice Min who's sadness, even though it's not really her business. The following day, we find Hyun Woo and Kang Junhui gearing up to head out. Ray watches them curiously, wondering where the rest of the crew might be. Hyun Woo picks up on her confusion and fills her in about their night out for dinner. Junhui Appa looks a little downcast, not too thrilled about having to settle for takeout instead of a home-cooked meal. Without missing a beat, Hyun ushers his gloomy friend out the door, throwing a cheerful wave over his shoulder. Wow, the celebrity life is no walk in the park, muses Ray, busying herself with housework. She doesn't worry much about the guys, her past encounters with money chasers keeping her grounded. Mid-thought, she's startled by a noise from the other room. It sounds like an argument. The door's slightly open, so she peeks in, only to find the guys deep in conversation. The puzzled look on her face is priceless. Shaking off the surprise, Ray heads to the kitchen where her mom is cooking dinner. She asks about her laptop, and her mom hands it over, noticing her daughter's flustered state. She asks what's wrong, but Ray can't shake off the drama she just witnessed. She explains that she stumbled upon something online, quickly clarifying that she's not into that sort of thing. When she walks into the room with her laptop, the guys are taken aback by her shocked expression. Min Woo tries to explain, but she seems too taken aback to listen and walks off. Se-hyun follows her, showing her the script they were rehearsing. He reassures her that it's all part of preparing for a role and offers to help her with the laundry, leaving Min Woo to his lines. Later, Mr. Manchel urges her to reconsider his job offer, explaining their need for someone reliable. He fills her in on this situation with Se-hyun, President Bae, and Kingdom Entertainment, which rings a bell with Ray. He shares a bit of history about Mr. Beck's past with the company and how he left with Se-hyun due to dissatisfaction with the way things were run. She's shocked to learn about Kingdom's plot to sabotage them, especially when it comes to hiring new staff. The job sounds exhausting, and she's hesitant to accept. Just then, the show's writer, steps in. She starts fine-tuning the show's format and suggests traditional reality show tactics to boost ratings. She tries to coax Ray into taking the job, warning that they risk cancellation otherwise. But Ray stands her ground, arguing that IS seems more concerned about the show's success than anything else. IS tries a different approach, suggesting a recurring role as a driver for Ray. She agrees, but only if she'll be compensated for her work. Returning to the conversation, Mr. Manchel reassures her that she's got nothing to sweat about, her job is all set and ready to roll. He also takes a moment to thank her for being such a stressbuster. Just then, she hands over the form he'd given her earlier. He scans through her answers, clearly impressed. Good job, he says, inviting her to call him Chief from now on. With a nod, she trails behind the chief as he introduces her to the industry's who's who. Cut to the next scene where we see our leading lady behind the wheel, smoothly navigating the city streets, with Min Woo in tow. She's got a handle on his drama schedules, making sure everything runs like clockwork. Mid-drive, Min Woo sparks up a chat about her driving skills. She shrugs, saying she wouldn't dare cart around a celeb without proper qualifications. But Min Woo's curt response leaves her wondering if they're already breaking their no-fights pact. Meanwhile, Min Woo seems lost in thought, appreciating how well her suit fits. A soft smile plays on his lips, which she catches in the rearview mirror, leaving her wondering if she's seeing things. Arriving at their destination, Min Woo dives into script reading with his co-stars, while she grabs a nearby seat and watches him work. The grandeur of the building amazes her, she can't believe she's getting to visit such places. Her attention snaps back to Min Woo, who's engrossed in the script. She considers snapping a pic for later when a figure steps into her line of sight. His sarcastic tone grates on her nerves as he questions her identity, and she shoots back a firm confirmation. His comment about Mr. Manchel and cloning leaves her puzzled, but she shakes it off, asking about his identity. He points towards Ari, one of the characters, and proceeds to rile her up by mocking her pronunciation and IS Entertainment's hiring choices. Meanwhile, Min-Hoo is getting his performance critiqued. His trainer corrects his delivery, and he takes the feedback in stride. But Soo-hyung Choi, one of the writers, teases him about his robotic line delivery. On the sidelines, Irae watches the exchange, surprised at Min-Hoo's lack of emotion, considering how hard he'd practiced with Se-hyun. Her thoughts are interrupted by Ari's manager's snide comments about pop stars and rookie actors. He even badmouths Ari's talent, leaving Irae wondering what kind of manager he is. As she watches Ari's performance, she thinks she's doing just fine. But Ari's manager doesn't stop there, making sarcastic remarks about Min-Hoo's role. Before she can snap back, the script reading wraps up, and each actor heads off with their manager. Min-Hoo looks a bit downcast about his first day, but shakes it off, approaching Irae with a request. As Min-Hoo heads out, he gives Irae a quick tap on the shoulder, leaving Ari in her charge. Irae checks on Ari's route, only to find out it's in the exact opposite direction they were going. Before she can protest, Soo-hyung Choi shows up offering Ari a ride. Although she initially refuses due to industry rumors, she finally decides to go with Min-Hoo and Irae, who hadn't even agreed to this arrangement. Soo-hyung tries to reassure her by mentioning his public relationship, but when she still refuses, things get a bit tense. A sudden scream from her has him letting go, and his attention shifts to Min-Hoo. After exchanging greetings, he reveals that he's a huge fan and a member of Iering, Min-Hoo's fan club. Min-Hoo is taken aback but manages to smile, which makes Soo-hyung blush and ask why. Min-Hoo explains that he rarely meets male fans, which sends Soo-hyung into a fit of excitement, praising his decision to become a writer. Irae watches this unfold, shaking her head at his antics and making a mental note to introduce him to her mom. Just as she thinks it's over, Soo-hyung comes back for another handshake with Min-Hoo, asking about his feelings towards his odd behavior. Min-Hoo seems clueless, which only amuses Soo-hyung more. He then shares some acting advice with Min-Hoo and starts explaining why he cast him for the role. But before he can finish, Irae jumps in with her own explanation, earning a lecture about not mixing personal feelings with work. He also mentions that Min-Hoo's fans call him the Mona Lisa, which piques Irae's interest. Soo-hyung elaborates on Min-Hoo's character, praising his genuine smile. He encourages Min-Hoo to express himself more in his acting, even offering his number for any future queries. Suddenly, Ari accuses Soo-hyung of using this as an excuse to get Min-Hoo's number. Despite his denial, she insists he delete it, implying jealousy. Irae can't help but laugh at their bickering, sensing their close relationship. Soo-hyung confirms this, mentioning their acting school days. Ari sees this as an opportunity to get his number too, but Soo-hyung insists she ride with him. In the midst of all this, Soo-hyung asks for Irae's number too. She hands over her phone, but he leans in to whisper a warning about leaving Ari and Min-Hoo alone, leaving her a bit confused. He mentions that Ari isn't bad, but her agency has a shady reputation, which reminds Irae of Ari's strange manager. Before she can ask more, Soo-hyung whisks Ari away, leaving her with his cryptic warning. As dawn breaks, we find our leading lady groggily following the sound of a serenading voice. She stumbles upon Hyun-Hoo, spying through a slightly open door. Joining him, she's greeted by the sight of Se-hyun, strumming a guitar and crooning for her mom. Confused, she turns to Hyun-Hoo for an explanation. He recalls the wish list form she filled out weeks ago, they're just fulfilling her mom's wishes. As Se-hyun's voice fills the room, tears of joy trickle down her face. Switching gears, Irae wonders where Min-Hoo is. Hyun-Hoo casually points towards his room, letting slip that he's been holed up there for days practicing his script. In the next scene, Min-Hoo steps into a meeting, greeted by Soo-hyung Choi. Soo-hyung expresses concern about Min-Hoo's emotional connection to his role, but Min-Hoo simply speaks from the heart. The writer hands over a revised script, explaining the tweaks he made after observing everyone in the last meeting. He reassures Min-Hoo, reminding him that all he needs to do is tap into his emotions. Ray, however, decides to steer clear of him. But much to her chagrin, he spots her and calls her out for not returning a favor. Unfazed, she stands her ground, rebuking his approach. Soo-hyung's words echo in her mind as Min-hoo takes center stage to rehearse his scene. He's visibly nervous, sweat beading on his forehead as he reads his lines. But then, out of nowhere, he collapses. Ray rushes to his side, reaching for her phone to call an ambulance. But Min-hoo weakly stops her, asking to be taken to his brother instead. At the office, his brother is frantic with worry. He quickly moves to quell any potential rumors or negative press, much to Ray's surprise. She insists on getting him medical attention, but Mr. Beck stops her, revealing Min-hoo's struggle with PTSD. The next scene pans to Mr. Beck, immaculate in a well-tailored suit, as he recounts the backstory of Min-hoo's condition. They came from humble beginnings, their parents running a small business in a quaint city. When Min-hoo was born, Mr. Beck was already 15 and attending high school in Seoul. This distance strained their bond, with little Min-hoo often running away from his older brother. We see flashbacks of their mother, a warm and loving woman, comforting a young Mr. Beck, assuring him that Min-hoo would eventually warm up to him. Their father echoes her sentiments, expressing confidence that they would become close before the school break ends. The day their parents headed out to an event, waving their goodbyes, was the last time they laid eyes on them. A disgruntled former employee of their dad's, let go because of his violent tendencies, took revenge in the most brutal way possible and took their lives. The trauma was unimaginable, especially for a 19-year-old Mr. Beck, yet, he found the strength to claim his parents' legacy and become the legal guardian of his younger brother, Min-hoo. The media lapped up the tragic story, turning it into a sensation. While answering a phone call one day, Mr. Beck left a newspaper within Min-hoo's reach. When he returned, he was horrified to find his little brother had read about their parents' death, a harsh reality he had been trying to shield him from. This incident marked the beginning of Min-hoo's struggle with reading. He would only read until he passed out. When Ray asks about Min-hoo's high school years, she's stunned to learn that he graduated despite his grades being all over the place. His PTSD symptoms, however, had proven stubborn against medication. Mr. Beck shares a doctor's report suggesting that Min-hoo open up about his feelings to aid recovery. But Min-hoo has remained tight-lipped, refusing to confide even in his near brothers. When Min-hoo wakes up later that day with a pounding headache, he's surprised by Ray's presence. He questions her, and she seizes the chance to apologize for being a pain since the start of the show. But instead of accepting his apology, she yells at him for blaming himself and pulls him into a comforting hug. Overwhelmed, she tightens her hold, warning him against making bad decisions again. Min-hoo snaps back at her for hurting his neck. Unfazed, she yells back, calling him out for being ridiculous and telling him none of this is his fault. He takes a deep breath and confides in her about his fears and the feeling of helplessness. Touched, she offers to help him, admitting that she already knows everything from Mr. Beck. She then questions him about his feelings of burdening others, especially his brother. What follows feels like an intense interview, with Ray offering advice and asking more questions. She tells him about her conversation with Mr. Beck and how worried he seemed. She's taken aback when she learns that Min-hoo's contract with NEAR is for 7 years, and they've only completed 2. She urges him to share his struggles with them sooner rather than later. In the next scene, we find Min-hoo opening up to his family about his struggles. They're all visibly moved by his honesty, each expressing their regret for not realizing sooner. His mom can't hold back her tears, but Min-hoo reassures them, shifting the blame onto himself for not sharing earlier. The room is thick with emotion, but leave it to our resident clown to lighten the mood. With his humorous quips, he manages to turn the tide from tears to laughter. He promises to support Min-hoo, which sparks a chain of similar vows from the others. Except for Kang Junhui, who manages to kill the moment with an awkward comment, resulting in an eruption of laughter. Meanwhile, Ray takes in the heartwarming scene, reflecting on the importance of open communication and the pain that bottling up feelings can cause. Fast forward to the day of the meeting and we find Min-hoo getting ready. His manager intercepts him, double-checking if he's memorized his script. She even makes him recite it on the spot, causing some playful banter between the two. And guess what? Not only does Min-hoo nail the script, but he also delivers it with raw emotion, leaving his manager speechless. But she quickly snaps him out of his dramatic performance, reminding him to focus on memorizing, not acting out the script. Suddenly, E-Ray hears a rustling sound and dashes towards it. Her search leads her to a young woman armed with a camera. Without missing a beat, E-Ray confronts her, accusing her of stalking them. But before things can escalate further, Min-hoo recognizes the woman as a WM. E-Ray immediately apologizes for her outburst, and the WM explains that she's there because of the recent false news about Min-hoo. She's utterly starstruck by Min-hoo, barely able to contain her excitement. E-Ray, curious about the term WM, learns that it stands for webmaster. The WM goes on to explain her role and how it differs from paparazzi, all the while stealing glances at Min-hoo. Suddenly, Ari appears, catching up with them to deliver a message from the director. Seeing this as his cue to leave, Min-hoo prepares to head off. But not before the WM seizes the opportunity to wrap him in a hug, acting as though E-Ray and Ari don't exist. As they walk away, Ari accidentally rubs off some of her makeup onto E-Ray's suit. She apologizes and promises to have the makeup artist fix it. She then invites the WM to join them for some official photos with the director, making her day even more unforgettable. The next scene takes us to Ari, getting a quick touch-up in the makeup room. Amidst the hustle and bustle, she strikes up a casual chat with the makeup artist who teases her about working for eyes, not exactly a dream job in their eyes. But Ari just shrugs it off, completely unfazed. She's happy where she is, managing chaos and all. Meanwhile, our resident webmaster is busy capturing every moment. Once she's done, she turns her attention to E-Ray, who's looking radiant and confident. Curiosity piqued, E-Ray asks her what the fans think of her. After all, she is the manager and has been caught up in that whole pretend dating drama with Min-hoo. The webmaster's surprised expression says it all. The fans don't see E-Ray in a romantic light. This revelation stings a bit for E-Ray, but she quickly brushes it off, choosing to focus on the genuine love Min-hoo's fans have for him. And then, in a comical twist, she spots a paparazzo lurking around. With a dramatic flair, she points her camera at him and snaps a picture, only to realize it's Mr. Park, a well-known figure among webmasters. E-Ray wastes no time in dialing Mr. Manchel to fill him in on the unexpected visitor. He gives her some strict ground rules to follow, making sure she's prepared to handle any situation that might arise. The drama is just getting started in this story. Want us to continue? Comment E-Ray below. Also, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Means a lot to us. Until next time, ciao.